Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to our first LinkedIn Live. I'm Pam Krueger. I'm the founder of WealthRamp.com. WealthRamp, for those of you who don't know, is the trusted go-to resource for both employees, individuals, and employers who are looking to find vetted fiduciary financial advisors who fit their specific circumstances. So today's topic is about what kind of personal financial advice can you expect to get at work? And we're going to hear from Kent Allison. He is the man who pretty much invented the entire category of employee financial wellness at work. Kent's recognized as one of the world's leading advocates for employee financial well-being, and he was a national leader of PwC's award-winning financial wellness practice, bringing unbiased financial wellness and counseling to employees at work when they're looking for help. So we're talking to the source here. So let me set the stage a little bit. I want to start from the premise that people are, especially after the pandemic, especially with inflation and higher interest rates, people are looking for more financial guidance, more financial advice, more help with their money at work. Since the pandemic, Cigna had a study that's just very recent that shows that almost 90% of employees want personalized financial advice, especially as they inch closer to retirement. And that goes for whether it's inside their 401k plans or personally outside. So for the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to pick Kent's brain, because he's the guy who knows, to find out what kind of personal financial advice employees can expect to get. What does it look like? What do they actually receive? What's being offered to reduce their financial stress? And we're going to try to leave about 5 minutes or so for questions toward the end. So don't hold back. Type your questions into the chat whenever you think of them, and we'll try to get to them, at the end. So Ken, welcome, and thanks for being here.
Thank you, Pam. Great to be here.
All right, Ken, what's going on? I know you retired from PwC a couple of years ago. What have you been up to since then? Because I know you haven't fully retired. Like, in other words, you're still doing a lot as a thought leader. Tell us about what you're doing right now, what you're up to.
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I've been doing a lot of consulting. I've been kind of handpicking who to consult with, and it's been mainly those that have some type of social purpose and or who are trying to influence and improve the financial wellness industry, both here and on a global basis, because it is growing quite rapidly overseas as well.
I feel like this is a topic that you're so passionate about, and even, I know you just retired, you've been doing a lot of traveling, a lot of fun stuff, but we talk a lot, and I know that you care deeply. And what I would love to know is what is the state of financial wellness? Explain to us, the state of financial wellness, what it is, what does it look like? And we'll get into a little bit of what's happening that's really good and where you see maybe there's a lot of room for improvement.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I introduced the concept of financial well-being and financial wellness over a decade ago. So we've had some time to kind of see it, to kind of formulate, but it's still pretty much in its infant stages. The good thing is that, it is a relevant topic. It is tied often to the broader wellness programs inside an organization, and it is viewed as strategic. And I think what you see in the marketplace, one, you see a lot of good research out there kind of identifying the need and the state of people's financial wellness. And then you see a lot of companies have implemented some sort of financial wellness program. So those are all kind of the positives. On the negative side, because a lot of the existing programs were deeply rooted in kind of financial literacy, financial education, a lot of the programs are still kind of stuck in that mode where workshops, online information and education, but not really centered and deeply rooted in what we term financial wellness, which is really centered around kind of changing behaviors, not just changing, not just educating people. So a lot of the programs still kind of stuck in the past with regard to, how they're doing the programs themselves. And two is that they're still, given the initial roots were kind of 401k education, if you look at the studies, a lot of them are still mainly focused on retirement, education, and investment planning. So the challenges are that, as you know, with COVID, inflation, the economy, the issues are much deeper with regard to what people are dealing with. And a lot of them are dealing with just everyday, day-to-day cash flow management. How do I get by, this month with regard to,
Exactly.
paying my bills? So it needs to progress further than where it is to kind of be more broad and address some of the fundamental needs that people have. In addition, needs to kind of move away from that kind of education environment where you're just providing information and education to a much more personalized, guidance situation where both the information provided needs to be more personalized and more of that one-on-one kind of hand-holding services that are so deeply needed.
Okay, so let me unpack the bag first for employees who are wondering and scratching their heads and they're saying, yeah, I'm vaguely aware of the fact that my employer offers some kind of financial wellness benefits. I'm under the impression that that's a little counseling. It's kind of cookie cutter. It's helpful. It's useful. It's education. But I don't know that I'm going to really take advantage of it. I don't know how to take advantage of it. And I don't know if it's really for me. So my understanding is that at every stage of career, whether it's early, whether it's mid-career, when you're making money and you're getting beyond that paycheck to paycheck and getting out of debt and you're paying off student loans, you're having kids, and then into close to retirement, there's sort of something for everybody in the financial wellness space, if you will, with a lot of these programs. But Kent, what does that look like in terms of adoption and employee participation in these programs as you know it?
It really depends on the program. I think the employers that do it best integrate it as part of their broader wellness initiatives and have it separated out from the rest of their benefit programs. It's not just another benefit hung out there for people to sign up. It's really more of an integrated program that kind of highlights the benefits in the context of somebody's needs. So part of the process is really kind of understanding each individual's personal needs and then matching up those resources that are available to those needs. I think what's part of the problem is that there's so many kind of what I'll say point solutions that are deemed financial wellness solutions that are offered, but they're not packaged in such a way that the individual understands which ones are most relevant to their particular needs. So the program itself, the ones that are more successful, the ones that have higher engagement, are generally those that really kind of personalize down to the individual and understand what the individual's needs are, and then starts to match them up with those solutions rather than having an individual go and try and find them.
Okay, full disclosure, as most people in this room know, this is the reason I created WealthRamp, because I want employers and I want individual employees to be able to plug into and get matched with the right fiduciary vetted financial advisor. But Ken, along the way to that, as we're starting to partner with these employers, along the continuum here, it seems like it has evolved from education. It's a little bit of a mishmash and it's a little bit confusing. I hear people tell me all the time that they don't understand why they can't sit down or why they can't get a referral, why they can't have one-on-one advice at work. Can you explain where the employer is a little bit hamstrung and where they are not allowed to give, real personalized one-on-one advice to you and your spouse and, become your financial advisor, if you will, at work?
Right, correct. I mean, they're obviously not in the business of providing financial advice. So they're providing services that tend to try to stay on the line of kind of education and guidance. And then there is this chasm that, what happens when I need to implement, what happens when I need to go further. The employers generally have not really addressed that issue very well. So people understand what their needs are, utilize the resources they have available to try to self-educate and self-help. But there seems to be this gap in terms of what happens when I need additional help and having resources available to them that
Yeah.
ultimately. A lot of them, will have kind of what I'll say one-on-one sessions that where their retirement plan administrator may come in, periodically and ultimately have, open meetings where people can sign up and have one-on-one. But it generally is again, still a little bit generic in terms of what you can really accomplish in
And
the.
a lot of times it seems like it's, from my experience is pretty much centered around the funds that are in the 401k. Whereas the people I'm hearing from, Kent, are saying, I need someone to look at the whole picture, real estate, my wife or my husband's 401k or 403b. So looking at the whole picture, and it seems like more and more companies are offering, and great financial wellness solutions are out there that are counseling, at that high level. And so like when you're describing the gap, as we've been crawling toward helping people more one-on-one, we're not there yet in the workplace, and therefore that still remains one of the gaps that to get people to understand how to connect. And I think that they are looking to their employer for help, at least some sort of referral to an advisor and someone they can meet with on their own, separately and privately and one-on-one. But what else are you seeing that's happening in the entire space, if you will, financial wellness at work, that you think is a huge either step in the right direction or a correction that needs to be made to get them back on track? Because I think that you talked to me a little bit about there's a bit of lack of standards in this financial wellness industry, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, what happened was when I introduced it, it was pretty much only a concept. All right. We had kind of built out that concept, but we never really kind of distributed that to the marketplace. And the marketplace kind of just then went and interpreted what financial wellness is. And what you see is a lot of things being called financial wellness. And it causes confusion in the marketplace. And all the kind of point solutions, even payday loan providers are out there touting themselves as financial wellness solutions. So the programs that do it best take a more holistic look at, what is it that we're offering and how does it fit relative to our employee needs. And I think the ones that are progressing are truly integrating it with their other programs and other initiatives and making it more strategic to the organization. We know that diversity, equity, and inclusion is a hot topic right now. And we know that, the wealth disparity is a hot topic. Financial wellness ties into all of that, and it should be tied into all of that. And the programs that do understand that it helps kind of fuel those initiatives as well and solve some of the issues and challenges that they're trying to address in those programs. Same thing on the health and wellness side. We know that, physical well-being and financial stress have a strong tie. Right. So making sure that ultimately the programs are more strategically tied to the broader initiatives, both from an organizational standpoint, because it does, provide benefits to the organization by doing that, but also down to the individual level, because those are some pretty, strong issues that people are dealing with, both individually and as a society.
So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit, and I'm going to ask you to draw me a picture and describe for me the flow within a company, whether it's a small company or whether it's a large company. Because I know you and I have talked, and you've developed sort of a funnel, if you will, where people can self-select what they want and need as they go. So if I'm a company and I'm offering it, or if I'm an employee and I'm trying to access what do I have at work that can help me guide my financial life a little bit better, describe for me how, as an employee, I would access that and flow through the choices and options, depending upon where I am in my life.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of what's happened with employees is it's kind of a deer in headlights situation. Employers have really, stepped up in trying to help address a lot of their needs, not just on the financial side, but on the everyday life side. The problem is that, it's kind of overwhelming. They don't know really, what they have and how to go about getting it. So, the process on the financial wellness side generally starts with identification of needs, both from a standpoint of understanding what's going on within, the employer benefit plans and and what they're doing with regard to their 401k. Are they taking out loans? Do they have garnishments? Are they struggling on that end? Are they diversified appropriately? But also understanding what's going on at home. And this is the broader issue that you just spoke about. It's more than just what's going on at work. It's what's going on at home. What are they doing when they get home? And
yeah, how can you possibly separate those two things? Can't we have a question that's from someone who wants to know? He's saying, my company has a financial wellness counselor. The company pays for those meetings with that counselor. That counselor, again, is not a financial advisor who's going to sit down with you and your family and be your financial advisor personally, one-on-one. But what's the difference? This person wants to know, what's the difference between talking with the counselor that's paid for by the company versus hiring an advisor?
Yeah, generally a counselor, and this is general, it varies by company and program. Generally, the counselor is just an extension of the education program. So all they're doing is providing that education and guidance, but they're not really getting down to, developing a financial plan, incorporating, the spousal and children, issues and goals and assets. So generally, it's still an extension of that education program and just helping them understand a little better what might have been presented in a group environment. In addition, as you noted, if it's done by the retirement plan administrators, some are better than others, but generally those have just been kind of extension of the 401k meetings, investing in the 401k, making sure they're appropriately diversified, and really kind of addressing the retirement end of things, which, as I noted, a lot of studies show that the programs are generally focused on those still and not addressing the broader.
And that's good, but it's kind of addressing either at a very superficial level with the counseling, or it focuses on getting a little bit deeper, but only with the slice of the pie where your 401k funds are. And so you're not getting, that's where the gap is, because you're not getting what you need from either. So there's another question too from someone who's asking, I'm always using the term fiduciary. I throw it around because I say it every day, and they're asking, I don't get it. What does fiduciary mean? What's the difference, and why does it matter? Ken, I'm going to let you answer that one since I am so used to answering it.
Well, again, I think a fiduciary is somebody who is held to a higher standard than just a general financial advisor. There are standards by which and protocols which they have to adhere to, and FINRA and various organizations kind of hold them accountable to that. So when in general, they're providing kind of unbiased advice. And not necessarily product driven, but really kind of employee or individual client goal driven. And Pam, you can jump in terms of a better definition, but it really just holds somebody to a higher standard if in fact they're a fiduciary advisor.
Right. Okay. I'm getting a question right now. I'm going to read it. It's, are there any significant improvements happening in either support from politicians, from policy, educational leaders, or programs being required in high schools, offered in college, et cetera? I think we're talking about overall financial literacy here. I mean, I think we all know that there's a huge screaming need for financial literacy education, practical investing skills by the time you're in middle school, and that doesn't exist. Kent, just quickly on the policy side, Labor Department, anything that you see that's going to help to expand the options that people have at work to access better financial advice?
It is a topic of discussion. I've been on a lot of committee meetings. I've been in front of Congress, congressional meetings. The issue is on the radar. The problem, as with anything in the government, is that there are a lot of initiatives going on, some overlapping and some kind of, separately funded. And I always kind of ask, why aren't they all working together? And it's because their funding depends on the separateness of it. So, but yes, there's an understanding down there that this is an issue. The Consumer Financial Protection Board has done various, studies on this. I think it's just a challenge that anything, nowadays with regard to the government has to be a net zero in terms of spend. So if you spend on this, you have to take away from something else. And that's where the bottleneck is.
Yeah.
So it is on the radar. They are concerned, obviously, even tied to kind of Social Security and the sufficiency of the funds there. There needs to be something done. They are pushing more towards the employer doing something and the employer naturally is asking, okay, well, we'll do something, but what's in it for us, right?
Right.
So,
Yeah,
so you've got
exactly.
that bottleneck.
There's a lot of pieces there, but the good news is that the employers want to help the employees to reduce their financial stress, help them with their investments, and not throw them to the wolves, especially when they're about to retire. And there's all these, there are sales. Let's face it, there are sales reps that are going to pounce on people right at the point where they're going to retire. And they need something as a resource. There's just another question here I'm going to read really quickly. I'm about a year and a half out from retirement. This is like speaking to the choir. I've avoided walking into a brokerage firm because I know they get commissions and huge conflicts of interest. They're not fiduciaries. And the question there is, what can my employer do to help me with this kind of advice, which is exactly what we're talking about today. And of course, that's like a giant endorsement of what WealthRamp is all about, because that's why I created it. So we could partner with employers to give those employers access. It's so easy. Do the employees have to pay for the advice? Yes, it's not paid for by the employer because they can't. They can help subsidize, but you have your own relationship with an advisor. But instead of, to this person's question, instead of just randomly walking into a brokerage firm and getting whoever you get, or getting some name, or going into a lead generation online for advisors, you can actually, access through your employer, if they partner with WealthRamp, to my network of vetted fiduciary advisors who specialize in helping people, different points along their career. And what else do we need to be left with for both employers and employees to think about and consider? Because what matters isn't what we're saying right here, right now. It matters, but what matters is that we walk away and we actually take what we're hearing right now and do something about it.
Yeah, and it's just to kind of piggyback off of what you said. That's another gap that employers are really helping employees up until retirement, and very few are helping them beyond. And therefore, the employers really kind of help them build up this asset base, mainly in the retirement fund, and in some cases it's very significant, and then kind of letting them off on their own. So I do see a need for a solution like WealthRamp to kind of connect that gap. So that people aren't kind of sent off. You've done great things as an employer, and now you've sent them off in kind of the world to kind of fend on their own. So it is a nice little bridge to kind of into retirement. With regard to, there was a question on, I like to do things on my own, but, I would like to kind of talk to advisor just to, kind of confirm my thinking. Yes, there are advisors out there that will assist you with regard to that as well. And I think you might find that, there is a need for the advisor beyond that. But there are people on the front end that, don't know where to begin and need an advisor on the front end. And then those that want to do it themselves. And ultimately, there's a lot of tools out there to kind of help them do it themselves.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they want to kind of, need somebody to come in and really kind of validate what they're doing, so that that personal advice still comes in.
The fresh
Right.
perspective. It's funny because a lot of the people who find WealthRamp, are engineers, or they might be professionals that have loved managing their own portfolios. They say, Pam, I love spreadsheets. I love managing my investments. I don't want anybody else to do it, but I've now kind of arrived at a point in life where life has become more layered, more complex, and I don't have time. And just to your point, I want the fresh eyes, and I want somebody to collaborate with me. I don't want anyone to sell me anything. I just want someone to collaborate with me and help guide my family, through the next phase of life beyond retirement. But I'm going to hold your feet to the fire and take you back to that question that I asked you a minute ago about, draw us a picture of what it would be like for an employee to flow through if they went online to their benefits page, and how they could kind of flow through a new way to pick and choose what they want for
Yeah, I
financial.
mean, finishing, I think I started it and I didn't finish, which is, you have to understand what the individual's needs are, and they themselves have to understand what those needs are. So some type of upfront financial assessment often helps them identify what behaviors they're currently exhibiting and what behaviors they should be exhibiting that they're not. And ultimately, by looking at that and the employer data, you get a good picture of really where the person's at, and you can direct them either through digital means or through one-on-one means to the resources that are then available through the benefit programs. Naturally, as I mentioned before, some people, one, don't want to go through that process and just want somebody up front to help and guide them. So they want the one-on-one right away. Others will go through the process and really need a process to kind of help them, guide them towards what the company is offering in terms of helping them meet those needs. So whether you do it individually or whether there's a process in place within the organization to help you identify what those needs are, ultimately that's the front end of the process, because if you don't know that, then it doesn't really matter, all the different solutions that the company provides, because you'll get lost in them. It needs to
Right.
be handed to you in terms of really what your needs are, and ultimately, brought into context of those needs so that you know what the solutions are that are really going to aid you.
Right. So that's where I see the other gap is when you're at work and you're an employee and you're saying, I vaguely know that my employer is offering these financial wellness benefits. I know they're going to pay for some of them. Some of them I have to pay for myself. But, where do I go to access it? It looks like a hodgepodge sometimes. So I think that, it'd be really cool to just be able to go on the benefits page, and some are doing this already, and flow through, almost like if I'm going to Whole Foods to shop for a big, tons of shopping. I have somebody that takes me through and shows me, okay, I'm going to save you time. If you're looking for this and this and this and this is where you go. And as you flow through, and you can kind of figure out and inform yourself along the way of, I don't need that. I don't need counseling, but I do need help with my 401k, or I do need personalized one-on-one advice. So that kind of choice integrated into the company's benefits and making it really accessible to me would go a long way to helping improve and increase participation and engagement with employees. So employees know what's going on, because the employee wants to do this for you. And they have some menu. Employees over here saying, I'm not connecting with it yet.
Right. And that goes, again, I think the programs that are doing it best don't have the financial wellness program kind of buried in the rest of the benefits. It really kind of sits outside of it and is more integrated in terms of really setting up the stage for benefit selection. So ultimately, before I go, keep in mind, how many people make benefits elections and never go back and check them. So this is really,
Right.
Fundamental to understanding what the individual's needs are and helping them understand what the individual needs are before they go and make their benefit elections and use the resources that are available to them.
Yeah. Well, hopefully now there are both employees, individuals who work for small companies, big companies, work for themselves, whatever, or the employers who are, going to think about, how can I connect, with my employees better, or help myself to access the kind of financial help that I need. Because certainly it's very clear right now in the current environment that people are looking. I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how experienced you are, looking for help and fresh eyes. And Kent, thank you so much for giving us an overview of what the financial wellness, sort of industry, which has become a cottage industry, looks like right now, where the gaps are, and just having this discussion. I really want to thank you for coming out of your retirement and talking to us. And I want to thank all of you for participating. And again, what matters most is what you do after you leave here and think about how you want to use it. I also want to thank Jack and the great team at Marbles for sponsoring today's talk. And just know that WealthRamp, I am partnering with companies to help provide that access to a network of fiduciary advisors and planners. Kent, thanks so much. We'll do this again.
Thank you.